All right, it's 5:15. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You've all had a chance to look at the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-0. I'll restate the agenda items. We'll start with public input on non-agenda items, consent agenda items as listed, A and B, minutes and checks. Chief's report, we have unfinished business, update on progress for Station 31, and admin. That's just an information discussion. We'll also discuss the fire merger topic as it's been around for the last 6 or 8 weeks, and then the approval of the 2024 meetings for the commission, and that will be a discussion and an approval this evening. As far as new business, we have the district and Iona McGregor's district discussion on a feasibility study, just to look at the numbers for what a merger might look like when it comes down to the nuts and bolts. And then the chief will also discuss and give us the updates on the state grant for recovery and station rebuild. Chief's remarks, commissioner remarks, and then we will adjourn. Any changes to the agenda as stated?
None.
None? All right. Public input on non-agenda items. Anybody? Seeing none, we'll move right into consent agenda, item 6. Any changes to the items as listed?
None for me.
None?
No.
Okay.
None.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Thank you. Chief's report.
Thank you, Commissioners. First off, I hope everybody had a pleasant, relaxing Thanksgiving holiday with family, friends. With a bit of time off for Thanksgiving and Veterans Day, it's kind of made the month feel like it's flown by. Nonetheless, we did kick off station design for the month. We met with our architect and civil engineers, and they've gotten right to work on starting design on the fire station. Their first steps are developing a footprint for the station and then positioning on the front half of the site, so we kind of know how the site and everything will start coming together. As we all know, Representative Botana proposed for a second time the dissolution of our district. His second attempt included splitting Fort Myers Beach up into 2 parts, splitting it between Iona McGregor and Bonita Springs. At the second delegation meeting on November 30th, Representative Botana again pulled his proposed bill. In the week prior to the meeting, Representative Botana was made aware of a much more feasible merger of fire districts in his jurisdiction. He chose not to modify his bill, rather he pulled the bill altogether. So we were glad to see that happen. We also received draft documents for the state grant that we've been awarded. That's the $14 million, made up of $9 million for the fire station and $5 million for revenue recovery. We've also been working with council and the state to finalize those documents and then prepare them for your review and approval later on. In administration, we've been working diligently with our consultants to complete and file our state-mandated performance review. This is the one that was put into effect a year or so ago, and it was due back in August, September, and we received an extension because of the impacts of Hurricane Ian. So ours is due on December 31st. Consulted with the consultants this week, and we will have our draft report for review before we submit it, probably tomorrow. We have a candidate for the life safety specialist position. They've successfully completed most of their pre-employment assessments, so we're glad to see that. We hope to extend a final offer before the holidays with a start date shortly thereafter. In operations, I'm pleased to report November was a mild month for emergency responses. There were no major events, but there were a few vehicle accidents, which included motorcycles and one e-bike accident that happened toward the south end of the island. Fortunately, none of the accidents resulted in major trauma. So our response time highlights, you'll see that our average turnout time for EMS calls was 1:27. Our average turnout time on fire calls was 1:22. And our average response time, which is incorporated of the turnout and travel times, was 6 minutes, 26 seconds. One of the things I did do was take a look back at August and September of '22 versus August, September '23, to kind of see how we're holding up with two stations and the number of calls that we're experiencing. So that this table will show you that for the time range of August and September of '22, our total response time was about 5 minutes, 30 seconds. You'll notice that's a little bit different than the 626 I mentioned. 626 involves units first due, second due. So it's not, this table is just first due units. So that's why it's a little bit different. For the same period this year, our response time, total response time is 5:49, so it's changed by about 15 seconds. But you'll also see for November, our average response time is 5:24. So we're holding very well to our service delivery model that we had prior to Ian. So I'm happy to report that. In November, our crews did leadership training by hearing or listening to a lecture from Frank Lieb. He's a Deputy Assistant Chief of Safety for FDNY. After the chief's lecture, the crews answered a series of questions that required some thoughtful deliberation on their part, and it gave us some insight into their perspective on leadership. We had Dr. Pereira in district. She lectured on pharmacology, and then the doctor spent some time having a Q&A session with the crews where they went through a few case studies and talked about them and had conversations to that effect. Chief Armiger worked with our labor leaders to bring in 2 peer support counselors from the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. These folks gave us 3 consecutive days of their time where they came and met with our crews to hear how everybody was doing in their recovery and their journey since Hurricane Ian. I'd like to thank the peer support counselors for their dedication to the health and well-being of our first responders. Also in the back of the room, one of the Local 1826 officers, Tim Jones, participated and escorted them while they were here. So thank you to Tim and his group as well. So you'll see in life safety and prevention, for Fort Myers Beach, that first table shows Fort Myers Beach plan review and permitting. You'll see that we've brought in 60,000 year to date, fiscal year to date, so October, November. On the next page, you'll see a breakdown of the plan reviews that we've completed for our partnering districts, San Carlos, Captiva, and Saltro. And see that we are doing quite a bit of business taking care of these other districts as well. So, and the last thing is district anniversaries for November. I had none, but I was corrected on that. So I would like to say congratulations to Commissioner Bennett for 5 years.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lezak for 5 years, and Commissioner Fleming for 7 years. So those are our November anniversaries. And that is my report.
Yep.
Any questions for the chief? No? We'll move on to the next item.
I have a comment under, well, no, I'll save it for the next. That's fine.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I know where he's going. Okay.
All right, unfinished business. Progress update on Station 31. Chief?
Yes. I had to bring that forward. So as I had already talked about, station design is underway. I was hoping to have some follow-up information from that first meeting. I had that meeting about 30 days ago. I did get a report from the architects, and we'll be meeting sometime early next week to see where they're at. I believe they'll have a footprint and probably a rough floor plan to start looking at that time. We're also working with, because the fire station can be done with the state grant, we have made progress with FEMA in being able to split the old fire station, split off the state fire station part in the public meeting space. The public meeting space is continuing to move forward with FEMA. But because it's us in the state, we are able to use firms that we had originally contracted with. We're just in the process of updating contracts, make sure we have all the verbiage that's in the state agreement incorporated into those contracts. So we're working on that as well. On admin, our backup contract is still pending. Haven't heard anything on that first agreement. I believe that by about the first of the year, they'll have to make a decision if they're going to move forward with it or not. And we'll go from there.
Standing. Discussion.
None?
Nope. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Item B, the hot topic. Imposed merger discussion. Chief.
As far as the merger goes, not a whole lot to talk about. The second attempt was, as I already said, was pulled on November 30th. That second attempt, information was provided to Representative Botana through Chief DeWitt at Benita about a week prior to that meeting of other mergers that would make more fiscal sense. Chose not to do that, but whatever the case, he pulled his bill and is allowing us to move forward with our study with Ione McGregor. So that's where we stand on that. There was a meeting today, so another bill has been brought up for special districts statewide, and that bill was considered in the Special Districts Committee in Tallahassee today. So I watched that meeting this morning, about a 40-minute meeting. And what it includes about 100, one of the speakers said about 120 out of the 1,200 districts in Florida, it'll be affected, and we would be one of those. But in essence, the 5-year performance review I just spoke about would go to every year. Commissioner seats, it's proposed that there be a 12-year term limit on them. But the biggest thing in there that most people spoke about was the fact that these special districts would all go in front of the voters every 10 years for the voters to reaffirm the continuation of the districts. A lot of conversation about counties that don't have countywide fire departments, and there would be nobody to hand the district off to if the voters should choose to vote to dissolve it. So it did pass through that committee today, so it is moving through the process, but it's got a long way to go. I'm sure it'll change.
Is that just fire districts or other special districts as well?
It's mosquito and water control, it's other districts, but there are some specifically excluded as well. So,
You said it affected about 120 out of what, how many?
I think they said there were about 1,200 special districts in Florida.
How did the 120 districts get chosen to be affected by this bill?
That's a good question.
Are they specifically listed in the bill?
They talk about fire districts, they talk about mosquito control. Actually, I think the bill references districts that have the ability to levy ad valorem taxes.
So there's only 120 districts in the state that levy ad valorem taxes?
I'm assuming that was comment from one of the people at the podium.
Okay.
A lot of the special districts in Florida are that were created, they're community development districts or neighborhood improvement districts. So,
When you say special districts, I know districts can be, I guess special district can be created by the county, can be created by a municipality,
yes,
and they can be created by the state.
yes,
And so the 120 must be the ones created by the state.
yeah, I believe so.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand the scope
Yeah.
of what they're talking about.
Yeah, what they talked about were the independent special districts that have the ability to levy ad valorem taxes.
Any questions?
No?
Comments? None? All right, item C. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Approval of 2024 Board of Fire Commissioner meeting schedule. Tony Tyler.
Yes, so this is simply the, last time we were here, we had talked about November 27th. It's the day before Thanksgiving, so we moved that date to November 20th. Christina was able to secure the room, and that November 20th is good, so that's the only change in that one.
Input, comment? Anybody?
Make a motion to adopt the schedule as written, as changed.
I'll second. Any public input on the matter? Meeting schedule, exactly stuff? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. New business, item A, back to our merger feasibility studies. Chief?
Yes, thank you. So in the process of going through the first bill and then the second bill, a lot of homework was done on starting with the study in North Collier, and as that was pointed to as a reference for where the savings was going to be. And after the first bill was presented, it was just us and Benita. Chief DeWitt and I got together with Chief Canberry from San Carlos and, had some conversations about what that might look like. Realized pretty quick that because of different pensions and equipment and whatnot, neither of us really felt like it would be feasible for the districts fiscally, would be feasible, would likely cost the taxpayers money. So that was kind of the first step. And then when Representative Botana came back, actually before that first bill was discussed on October 30th, the week before, Representative Botana had already reached out to the chief at Iona and asked if he'd be willing to consider taking up to the bridge. He said he had no idea, didn't know what it would cost, whatever the case might be. So Iona was in the background even as they talked about it on the 30th. We had the at the first delegation meeting. So that started with Chief Comer of Iona McGregor and myself having our first conversations, basically how much money is there? Is there even enough to run Station 32 in that area up to the bridge? And it was, so we looked at the taxable values, at their millage rate, and that was kind of how the conversation started. And then kind of the same way we started having those conversations, would there be feasibility for our two districts? With us both being FRS, us both using, similar equipment, we wouldn't have to buy new air packs for the trucks. And then the fact that we work so often with Iona McGregor, plus the fact that when we go into emergency management mode, us and Iona McGregor work together as a geo-division known as the Beaches. So there was a very high-level conversations that it could be feasible. So when the second bill actually came out, let me back up. So then in the process, as this was moving forward, the threat of another bill coming, the second meeting had been posted for November 30th, but no bill had been sent to anybody. There was also conversations around the county that Representative Botana was being pushed to look at all 17 special districts, independent special fire districts. So that got the collective county organization together and started talking about, the what ifs of that. While we were in that meeting, Representative Botana reached out to the three chiefs, Chief Comer, myself, and Chief DeWitt, and said, hey, I'm getting ready to send the draft bill. So it was on that day that we knew we got the second draft, and that was taking us and dissolving us and breaking us up into Iona and Bonita Springs. So then I further talked with Chief Comer and said, why don't we look at this and study the feasibility of it? Because from the beginning, all the narratives have been, there needs to be a study, needs to be feasible, there needs to be a merger plan, there needs to be a vote of the people, and then finally a merger would take place. So Representative Botana all along has refused to do a study of anything. But what we found was that there are two districts in his area that have two fire stations a half a mile from each other. So in the absence of doing a study, there's another merger out there that's much more feasible for the taxpayers than us and Bonita, us and Iona, splitting us up, any of those options. So all that information was gathered up and given to Botana a week before the November 30th meeting. And from that, it was a two-part approach to this situation. One, provide a better option for a merger, if he's serious about representing his taxpayers, here's his first merger. And then the other option is we study the feasibility. It's the right first step, we've been saying all along. And at the end of the day, we'll know either way. Because as he said on November 30th, this is going to be an issue again next year. So us and Iona, so in that process, I reached out to Chairman Bennett. Chief Comer reached out to his board chair and asked tentatively if we could, work into a study and see what it showed. So that's how we got to where we are. The staff has had one meeting with Iona since the November 30 meeting. And the first step is to put together a scope of work and try and get together and do an RFQ for a third-party firm to help us do this study. And that's where we're at.
In the, today's discussion about reevaluating special districts, was Iona in that group as well?
Iona would
With
be
us?
it, yes.
And as far as that 10-year process?
Yes.
12-year.
All the fire districts would
Okay.
be in it.
And for the entire county?
Lehigh would not, because they have a different methodology for levying. They have a fire assessment fee.
You're kind of doing this end around approach.
It feels like
Just
it feels like it's burdening the special districts.
What
Well,
about
the goal has been in the state of Florida for at least 10 years to get rid of the special districts.
Yeah.
What about the two other districts that are an opportunity for a merger in the area, Bonita and the other district? Are those on that list?
They would be on that list. Yep, they're also.
But of course,
This is a statewide initiative.
the representative doesn't want to talk about the need being absorbed. I give you high praise for the work you've done in delaying this. I look forward to the study. I have other inputs I would like to see in the study. One thing I would like to, we need an urban planner. Everyone knows this island's going to just get big and rich and unbelievable. Well, okay, how much? We need like a 20-year study. We need an urban planner to come in and some sort of person who does financial analysis and who's going to come. I mean, there are more buildable barrier island lots on Estero Island than anywhere in the country. And they're coming, but who? How many?
Who knows?
The chamber, and we need to know what we're looking at. And I watched the last meeting, I wasn't here, which is probably a good thing, about how we had, everybody stuck up for us. We're not broken. Why are you coming after us? We're doing fine. Well, I'm looking forward to this study, but I'm not eager to see,
How much input will we have on this study? I know it's a third party, and that's good because it keeps it from being partisan, but
Right.
how much input will we have?
Ultimately, we'll do the study, and I think every affected group in the organization, labor, the board, everybody is going to ultimately have input, similar to the way we do our standard of cover and whatnot.
Right.
So I think everybody will have input, but ultimately, those studies will come back, and, we'll have, it'll be put to you guys to choose to proceed, not proceed. At the end of the day, again, if a study comes back and says it's feasible, then we have to decide if we're going to, do the merger plan. It has to go to the vote of the people. So, and I don't anticipate that we would want to spend any money to do a special election. So the earliest I could see the voters even having an option to vote on this would be 2026.
So if this comes back as the study says they recommended merger, where does that put us? Can we decide not to continue with that? Or is that a moot point?
No, I think we could always decide not to continue with it. I mean, you guys represent, you hear from the community, so you speak for the community. I think the thing that we'd have to look at, I don't anticipate a study coming back and saying it's going to save money. I think it could enhance operations a bit, but I don't anticipate coming back, like the study at North Collier said they were going to save a couple $1 million in the first year. I don't anticipate seeing that. We don't have redundant stations. We're not heavy on apparatus or personnel. You know, we run a lean operation, so I don't think that'll be it. I think at the most, we're going to see that it might provide some operational benefits. But there are also risks in there. I mean, you know, we have our transport units. There's a lot of factors that have to be figured in, and it's going to take a while to flush it all out.
Anytime that a referendum is put before the voters of the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control Special District, you want to keep them, it's going to be 95% yes.
Yep.
And I think that we should look at it that way.
Yep.
Just because a study says, okay, this is sort of good, but will it help us? I mean, we're going to be able to lower taxes, we can increase our employees' wages, and if, you know, and if something bad happens and we need Iona's special teams, well, they're more than happy to come and help. But the density, I mean, we have to look at different modes of transportation. I mean, we may be having to use the beach, sort of when we had the other vehicle, because it's a 2-lane road, so it's
I mean, I think there's a lot of factors.
a lot,
in,
a lot.
I'm interested to see what data comes of it. I am not eager for the idea or thought of a merger. Now, that being said, if the voters come to us, as they typically do with hot topics, and this would be one,
And this would be a hot one.
then we have to consider their desires. If they come and force with pitchforks and say, no way, not my beach, then we have a study and we have a message.
Right.
I look at it, if I anticipate, I think the chief does as well, by Mr. Botana's comments at the last meeting, that he's not done coming after us.
Right.
And it's, again, we all have our guesses on what motives are. I mean, our town is rich with the district being in that way as well, with opportunity and growth and taxable values that are going to be multipliers of, 2, 4, 10 times what they were pre-storm. And I think that interests a lot of other politicians. And I guess part of the thing that really disturbs me about this last 2 months is the politics of it. It's a gamesmanship. It's the way things are done. It's the reason I don't like politics. It's the reason I love the level of giving that we do and serving the public. But it is our duty to at least look at the data. And if I were to look at it today and, it says you're going to save $1 million, which I would be shocked beyond belief if it did. I would still be hesitant until I hear from the public. I think we're going to need, even with the data, with the workshop, approach, have workshops with the public and have them sit down and say, what do you want? What does the future of the beach look like for you as far as your emergency services? That's kind of my vision.
I agree with both of you. I think we need to do the due diligence of it because of the position we've been put in. Not expecting to see any great savings. I wouldn't, we do run very, very lean, and there could be some service enhancements, but I just think folks need to remember why we're in this position and who put us here. And ultimately, it's going to cost us all extra money, taxpayer money, to do this study and to go through this process, when we really should be focusing on our recovery and all the things that we need to be doing right now to get our island and our community back up and running. And, I'm aggravated, along with the other commissioners here, that we're even in this position. And I urge folks to remember at the voting booth how we got here. So, I think it's not just us on the island, the 2,000 votes that's here. This district goes all the way up to the Walmart, and we have a wide reach back into Lee County and elsewhere in the state of Florida. And I urge anybody who's considering pushing us around to remember that, because I think this is a tough little community, and You know, if it's right for the community, then it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But don't do it to us the way it was just done.
And it's their
The
decision.
way it was done was wrong, and,
Absolutely.
and it's a shame.
Jim?
I certainly echo Commissioner Lezak's concerns about the way this has been handled so far, and the position this has put us in to require us to do some kind of a study at a time when we should be focusing on rebuilding. But that being said, I think it's clearly now, because of the position we're in our best interest to do the study, to gather the data, and then also listen to our constituents, to the people, to see what they would like to do. I would think most people would like to continue having some influence and control over their public safety services to the degree they can through the commission process, through their elected officials. And I, for one, would hate to see that disappear from the people here, be taken from them. So hopefully we'll go through this process in a professional manner, and we'll all consider the results of that study and give it due diligence, as well as listen to the feelings of our constituents before we decide the next step after that. I'm feeling a little abused by the state, I think. But we've been abused before. I mean, you know, from Hurricane Ian on down. So I think we're, like the commissioner said, we're a tough little community, and I think we'll do what we have to do here.
Commissioner Wood?
Well, I would concur with all the others, and I'm certainly in agreement that the first step needs to be the study, and then everything else will go from there. But I think we do need to begin working with the community to apprise them of what this all means and what it will mean to them if this were to occur. It's going to make a lot of changes for all of us in terms of service, possibly even transport, and our fire commission. I think that's it. I think we're all in agreement, so I'll stop at this point.
I'd also like to reiterate that we're just talking about a study. We are
Right.
not suggesting a merger.
No.
We are not endorsing the idea of a merger. But since we've been put in the corner, so to speak, with twice now in the last 60 days, this topic, we owe it to the voters to have the data, that if they're forced to go to the polls on this topic, at least they have the data that makes sense.
Right.
It's unbiased, it's third party. By going third party, it frees up our internal assets to continue with their work on a daily basis. And I'm sure they'll have to supply access and files and data and that type of thing, but as far as compiling it, comparing it, doing that thing. Chief, do we have an anticipated cost on?
We don't yet. We don't know. So we've met with the attorneys to ask their guidance on, you know, an RFQ and the process. So I've asked you for a motion here tonight just to continue with the study. But the attorneys are drawing up a referendum, basically to the same effect, and it would be identical for both boards, so that, you know, you guys pass a referendum to say that we're doing the study only. That's just, couldn't have it ready in time for tonight's meeting, so probably bring that next month, and Iona hopefully will be able to have it by the
Nothing
time
we
they
need to
have
vote
it.
on this evening as far as?
I do have a motion here,
continuation?
and
Okay.
it's just to say,
Before
continue
we
with
get
the
to
study.
motion,
No, yeah.
one final comment.
Yeah, and public input.
The representative has been quoted as saying the storm put things into perspective. I texted him, called him several times, asking him, what does that mean? We had just received an award from the state senate saying that we were wonderful reacting to the storm. The representative disagrees. I believe I have figured out what that means. The representative, while everyone there, this is 3 days after the storm, because I saw him, I didn't know who he was, but he was at the library delivering internet. He said the storm put things into perspective. when everyone out there was still looking for injured and dead, someone in Bonita Springs saw if we can get that island, we can have a 7-mile extension of the Bonita Beach Road to make those houses in Bonita look like not ours. Not counting the hundreds of smaller but million-dollar houses. They saw opportunity. They are felons because they were going to dissolve us and take our grants, our paid-off buildings, our land. It was a money grab, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any public input on this topic? We're having fun now.
Public speaking.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're pretty good at it.
I'm Jennifer Gordon. I'm the DVP for District 3. Thank you, commissioners, public, hello, for letting me speak. Tonight, I'm just going to rehash a little bit. On October 10th, obviously, a chain of events was started by Representative Botana. The proposed legislation regarding takeover, merger, absorption, whatever you want to call it, initially disregarded the will of the people. We're adamantly against it, as you all were, and that's pretty much how we stand to this day. And when that did not succeed, the next month it was written again in a different way that gave the people a right to vote, but it still disregarded the will of the people because it was a majority type vote. I don't even know if that's legal to do that. Neither one of those attempts were well thought out. They weren't cohesive. They didn't include the statutory study requirements and followed basically, state statutes and laws regarding mergers of special districts. And it didn't include the information for the taxpayers of any of the districts involved to make factual and informed decisions. The last attempt was pulled from consideration after we, FMB Fire, proposed an alternative that we would do a feasibility study with Iona McGregor to see if there would be a cost savings and or an increased level of service available to the taxpayers of both districts if Iona McGregor and FMB were to merge. With that being said, the firefighters of FMB are committed to remaining FMB and retaining the history, service, and legacy of FMB Fire, Fort Myers Beach Fire. We know the future for Fort Myers Beach Fire can serve as an example of recovery and resilience for other small coastal departments around the country that may face the same type of devastation of their infrastructure, of their community, of their population that Ian raked on us. We believe that FMB Fire has a singular opportunity almost 75 years into its existence to take the Control-Alt-Delete reset that Ian served us and again become a world-class organization focused on community involvement and delivering community-driven services. I spoke to a couple of you individually with my concerns recently. The message that we as a group are receiving from the chiefs has made us wonder if you had changed your minds regarding the mergers, and you have made that perfectly clear that your minds are the same as they were in the beginning, as are ours. Statements regarding what uniform shirt we would be wearing, using Iona McGregor using Iona McGregor SOPs, specific Iona McGregor chiefs taking on operation sections of our department, and up to chiefs asking members which section or which division or which station they would bid for when we merge, has not reflected that a study is all that is being done. Whether intentional or because of lack of communicative effectiveness, this message has a majority of the floor personnel believing that the study is more of a formality and that our chiefs are actively working on merging our two departments. The future for us seems more uncertain now than the day after Ian destroyed the island, and we are ready to see recovery happen inside our department. We are ready to face the future triumphs and trials as Fort Myers Beach Fire. Our current chiefs may not be the ones that can lead us through this recovery and into the future. It seems as though internally we are stuck in stasis, SCBA's bunker gear we lost during the storm have not been replaced. An engine that we lost in the storm has not, an order for that has not been made. It will take almost 2 years for that engine to arrive. The island seems to be recovering faster than we are. Let the feasibility study be done. Get the information for the public, get the information for the board, get the information for us. We're not so hard-headed that we can't look at factual information and pivot. Get the facts and determine if there is a savings or a service increase to the Fort Myers Beach community, and then let them decide, as you guys have spoken about. In the meantime, let's start moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Any further discussion?
Any other comments?
Comments?
Any other comments?
More public input? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Ed Moran, I'm a resident of the island. I am adamantly opposed to you even going through the feasibility study, simply because do we really need to spend the money? The chief just told us that they're going after special districts for the next how many years? Instead of a feasibility study, how about this board start punching up? And you guys go after those representatives as a group and say, no, hands off. Hands off. Every one of you sitting up here knows, as soon as this thing is done, that goes to a vote, it's getting turned down. We're not giving up 3 ambulances for the county to give us 1, or to promise us 3 and maybe get 1. We're not going to do that. Save money? Seriously, folks, are we kidding me? What are you going to save? $100? $100 to give up your voice. Because what happens is once you merge, the beach residents are done. You know, everything else becomes a majority. Our vote means nothing. It's time for you guys as commissioners to stand up and say, hands off. You guys are our elected officials. Stop being reactive. Be proactive. The chief's telling you it's coming down the road. Take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Well, I'm not a taxpayer, but I'd like to hear.
You're free to speak, sir.
So, my name is Tom Edge, I'm a retiree, and I look at that sign there and it says 1949. I did, a few years here. You all have a beautiful opportunity with a blank canvas to steer the direction of this organization. Take it. Take the bull by the horns. You guys are unique. This town is unique. These firefighters are unique. So, don't sell them out. Stand your ground, fight the fight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, discussion, questions?
I just want to say thank you for
Statements?
coming in.
Yes.
For your statement.
Right.
Thank you.
We need more residents to do the very same.
Your comments and feelings are well appreciated.
Again, we're discussing a study. This was, Ms. Thompson and I were talking yesterday, and I think she had the perfect comment for why this study idea came about, and it's playing chess. And again, it's politics that I don't prefer, but we've been pushed into. My feelings haven't changed as far as whether or not to do it. Again, it is just a study, and I would ask the chief to please direct admin and everybody to remember that it's just a study. This is not a planning stage for how to join services or what stations people want. And, it's certainly not a merger that's desired by doing this. It's, let's get the data, let's have it available. The state's not going to do it. If we don't have the data and it goes to a vote, then, this data's proven over the years to be our best asset. And I have no doubt that this will be the same. Now, if it comes to us and it's going to be a ridiculous amount of money, then of course we'll have to revisit this. And again, both boards are going to have this same approach. So by us taking a position tonight is just one piece of, that started the conversation. With that being said, yeah, go right
I'd
ahead.
like to remind residents as well to push up against the representatives who are representing you at the state level, because those are the ones who will be looking at this. And one of them is one of the ones who proposed this. They're your representative too. And Resident Moran made a good point to push up, but we need our residents to push up against those representatives as well. Because we are just the fire district board, that's it. We can push as residents and we can push as a board, but we need our community behind us pushing as well, so.
And as seen by the letter of the law, and it was a surprise to me, the legislature does not have to operate under state statute. We do. But that being said, if our local representative, as he tried to do the first round of this, wants to impose a merger, literally involuntary, doesn't go to the voters, no real data, it could be done.
We could do it.
A catastrophic move, in my opinion, but if it's pushed to that level, then data's going to be our friend. It really is. I think all of us probably agree that the cursory look at operations and cost, it's hard to see a savings from the outside, so we need that documented. Anybody else?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we already have I think, a pretty robust working relationship with Iona McGregor. And on the bright side of this study, we might find opportunities that we could continue to improve that relationship and that working process to more effectively serve both communities at the very least. The most challenging part about the whole process is taking the voice away from the people.
Right.
Right.
And I find that despicable myself.
Okay, my question would be, why are we paying for a study? It seems to me that the legislatures should be paying for the study. In other words, that's part of the statutes. Does the statute, I have not read that portion, but does that say that the people have to conduct
burden
this?
of
And then we pay for it, and then they ignore what comes out of it? How does
Yeah,
that work?
we might have been able to get the state to pay for it if it was imposed. So if the bill had passed on November 30th and it was going through Tallahassee, then if the bill included verbiage for a study, Botana hasn't shown any interest in doing the study, while the other representatives have maintained the position that a study needs to be the first step. So yes, it's going to cost us money for us in Iona to split the cost of the study. But I believe what we've done is put ourselves in the driver's seat of our destiny. So yes, we're going to pay for the study. We're going to have a third-party firm that's already, we've talked about firms that with the attorneys that the state has already vetted for the performance review processes, to start there in looking for a firm that can help us with this, so that if the state pushes back, it's a firm that they've already vetted as valid in whatever process they used.
Could we make a formal request for Mr. Botano's office to pay for this study or find funds to help pay for this study, since this was his
I don't see why not.
idea?
I don't know what the
That's great.
timeline would be, but
Or at least reimburse us for it?
exactly. So maybe by next session,
And if we could do that jointly with Iona McGregor, because they're his constituents as well,
I don't know why we
and
can't.
ask that his office find a way for us to be reimbursed for this study, since it was his brainchild to begin with.
As far as I know, nobody wants this merger,
Yeah, why?
at least at this point. And so, we're going to prove that it's necessary or that it's not necessary. That doesn't seem to be right. It seems as though the legislature, if you said that the legislators, other than Botana, say, this is the first step, okay, we'll take the first step, but then I also consider if they run the study, it's going to be skewed whatever way they want it to go. And so I'm reluctant to allow that.
for me, based on how this all came about, it would be the stand-up thing to do, to help find a way to reimburse the cost of the study that we never asked for in the first place, but are being forced to do because of the position we're in. So it would be the stand-up thing to do for Representative Botana to help us find the money to get reimbursed for it.
Okay, good luck with that. Let's go for it.
All right, I think we probably talked this.
Yeah.
I think so.
Would anybody like to make a motion to proceed with the study assessing the feasibility of merging Fort Myers Beach Fire District with Iona McGregor Fire District and authorizing the selection of a third-party firm to assist with the study? The motion includes splitting that cost with this study between the two districts, and then also attempting to recuperate whatever monies may be available from our legislatures that are pushing this topic down the road. Again, this is just a study. It is not by any means an endorsement or recommendation for a merger. Do I have a motion? Nobody wants to make a motion.
Well, I will reluctantly make that motion
Okay.
pursuant to all of the concerns we have all expressed related to this whole subject and feeling like we're pressured into doing this. I don't think any of us saw a problem that needed to be fixed. Instead, we're seeing a solution look in search of a problem. And so, but I think it is in our best interest. If we ignore this entire matter, I could foresee Representative Botanic coming back again and again until they eventually force us into a position that we don't want to be in.
Right.
All right, motion's been moved by Commissioner Nichols. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion on the topic?
I just want to thank you both for doing that.
This is the type of things that really complicate our lives with peace and tranquility
Yeah.
when we're being pushed so hard from outside sources beyond our control. With that being said, I think we're doing the right thing. I really do. Again, I don't desire, we're all residents as well. We're not just people up here battling. I live here, I pay taxes. I love our firefighters. I always have before I ever sat in this chair. We've known the guys in the house and the chiefs for the 21 years that my wife and I have lived here. And I take this very personally when somebody comes after what I now feel is my family. And I know the folks on the floor are even a tighter knit family than what we are as a board. But the spending money on something that we shouldn't be wasting our time with is extremely difficult. With that being said, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries 5-0. Chief, thank you. I'd also like to thank you for the countless hours in the last 2 months, meeting with legislatures and chiefs and trying to wrangle this monster that it's become. You've done an outstanding job in controlling the craziness of what this could have been, including keeping us informed and calm, because I know each one of us is very emotional about this. One of the comments made when you and I met with labor initially was, he needs to really go visit the beach and see what happens. I can appreciate the sentiment. I don't endorse it. We have to respect the office, the individual I have feelings about, and they wouldn't agree. With that, we'll move on.
Thank you.
Thank you all. State grant review and, state grant revenue recovery and fire station rebuild.
Yes, a little better news. We received the documents for the $14 million Those documents, we passed them on to Attorney Salzman, and his group was able to review them, and they're legally sufficient, his terminology, to move forward. So we then reviewed with the state the document, because it has a lot of reference to FEMA in it, and got reassurances from them that it is just us and the state, and FEMA's not involved. So one of the things in the document is a performance deadline of March of 2026 to have a CO on the fire station. So we've, and the architect has helped us over the last week or so put together a timeline. It's a worst case scenario timeline, but it's got buffer built in there that everybody's confident we'll be able to do that in a shorter timeline, but at worst case, March of 26. So those documents are in front of you. In the documents, they in the timeline in attachment A, the first step is board approval of the documents, and that is what's in front of you tonight. So approval to proceed.
Any questions for the chief?
And
Yes, I do. 8B, it's funding. It says the state of Florida payment is contingent upon an annual appropriation by the legislature. So
Yes.
what is that? That tells me that any time they can pull the rug out and we'd be half built?
No, so they'll fully fund this. So when they explained it to us, once this is done, the whole amount goes into an interest-bearing account.
Right.
So it's fully funded in the current year. So that money will be set aside. If it was a multi-year project, it could have that risk, like a larger utilities project or something. But in this case, all the funds will be set aside in the current year.
Okay. And I noticed that the legislature gets the interest on those
Yes.
accounts. Okay.
That's fair.
Another.
That's fair.
16B, termination of the division in its sole discretion has the right to decide that they don't want to continue with it. That's the termination clause.
Yeah,
We don't, well, of course, we can.
right. I mean,
guess just not
they're granting us the
right.
money, but,
But at any point, they can, again, pull the rug out.
yeah.
That bothers me.
Yeah.
It just bothers me that they have the,
I
How
will
would you-
say that we, talked to some other people, talked with the town actually, and they have their funding agreement. And it seems that the state has, in a large part, used boilerplate language, and again, referencing the FEMA components that are in there. But we got repeated assurances from the state that, it's fairly simple on their part. We show progress, and, the architects already have to submit, similar to the way if you were building the bank would do draws, the architect will submit progress reports and certify that the work has been done. Those same standards exist in here, and they're all, if you look at attachment A, the 25%, 50%, 75% completion. So our professional services are going to be certifying that the progress is continuing all through.
I see Jane is going to be very busy monitoring all of this and trying to maintain the records for the Auditor General and several different entities. So appreciate what you're doing for us. Last thing, I just note that on attachment C, the statement of assurances,
Yes.
there are 6 pages of assurances that we have to
Yeah.
comply with.
Yes, and that's the area where there is a lot of reference to the FEMA stuff. So we're in the process right now of going through and picking the state assurances and making sure that those pieces are integrated into the 3 professional services contracts that we have to update.
They seem to be absurd, and
Yeah.
often they're redundant.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes,
Yeah,
redundant.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
I think attorneys get paid by the letter.
I think they do, too. Yes.
Subparagraphs and chapters.
Yes.
Commissioner Clement?
No question.
Okay.
Yeah, no questions, let's go.
All right. Let's scroll back here, my links aren't working Bear with me a moment. 25. All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept the State of Florida LAP grant and authorize the fire chief to execute the agreement and any related addendums and attachments on behalf of the district. Do I have a
Second. Second.
Wood seconds. Discussion?
None.
Public input? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Nobody? 5-0. Thank you. All right. Fire chief remarks.
Thank you for everything tonight. First off, I wanted to share that we met with the town today and Lee County Sheriff's Office on discussing the New Year's Eve event. Plans are progressing, and we're looking forward to a happy New Year's Eve event. So, happy to report that. I'd like to thank Commissioner Lezak in her role as Chamber President for her work in the community, and I truly enjoyed participating in the boat parade this year. That was very nice. Thank you. And then last thing is I hope everybody has a happy and relaxing Christmas and New Year's. That's it for me.
Who'd like to start, Ron?
Yeah, I just want to thank you and your staff for giving us a couple years to dodge this steel. And other than that, just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you.
Commissioner Nickel.
I echo Commissioner there on thank you for the incredible effort that you have made, and it was well thought out. Also, I'd like to thank the firefighters of the district for an incredible year. It's been a challenging year. We were kind of hoping they would start getting easier, weren't we? But they're not. We'll face them though together, really. And I want to thank everybody on the board for everything they've done, and the staff of the department as well for tremendous effort this past year. And wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
The same. Thank you so much. Just want to remind everybody, we will have the Bayside Concert Series will be a double header on New Year's Eve before the town's event. So 4 to 6, Chasing Denver, and then 7 to 10, Guilty Pleasure. And then they can move over toward the beach to watch fireworks, which will be off the shore on a barge, is what I'm understanding, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, so, we're going to ask everybody to be kind that evening. There'll be lots of parking all the way up and down the island. The trams and trolleys are running. And I look forward to it. I know that we're going to inspect everything and make sure it's safe, so thank you very much for that. I'd also like to thank the firefighter paramedics who responded to the Women's Club Festival, because we had an event there, a lady fell, and they were very professional and showed up and did a great job with her. And another great event on the beach, obviously. So they keep coming in. And CBS is opening tomorrow, having their walkthrough. So that's another great thing to celebrate that's happening. And I just want to thank all of the other commissioners for their support and collaboration and all their efforts this year. Everyone in the department, thank you for putting us in a position at least where we can fight. And we have data behind us, so I think that's important. And Happy New Year, and Merry Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah to everyone.
Great.
Mr. Wood.
Well, I want to say that I also concur with the others and agree that, I think everyone in this room has been affected by 2023 and the events that unfolded. I realize the storm occurred prior to that, but the effects have been devastating this year for everybody in this room, for all of our firefighters, and certainly for those of us that live on the beach. It's been a real challenge. Obviously, the residents have we've dealt with the issues with the firefighters in our own homes, and just the difficulty of resurrecting this island. And I appreciate the work of the board, the commissioners, and the residents, and also, of course, all of our staff that have, and let's hope that, well, I won't say hope. We know that 2024 is going to be a much better year. 2023 is one that I'm going to try to forget and remember the things that occurred prior to that and the good things that are going to happen this year. And, okay, so we felt we were responsible and we felt we had to do the study, but that doesn't mean the study's not going to turn out in our favor if we decide it's going to do that. And I think 2024 is going to be a great year, and I appreciate all of you and your hard work during this past one. So that's all I have to say.
Leaves me for last.
Yeah, toughest
What do
one.
you
It
feel
is tough.
hardest?
I agree.
Yeah.
I'll throw Kwanzaa in there too, for anybody that answered Kwanzaa.
that's true.
Happy, Kwanzaa.
Or any other celebration of
The, it truly is, I mean, this is our last meeting for 2023. I'd like to thank the staff, the folks in labor and the floor, and all the hard work that everybody does to keep the district as a great organization. And everybody's got the same thing in mind. I mean, it's, we get lost in the weeds a couple of times with this recent kind of disruption. But I am firmly confident that you have 5 people here that will fight to the bone to keep this district whole, and that's just the board. And I think staff and the chief are on the same boat. You know, it's all of us like what we see on the side of our trucks and what we see on the uniforms and the people we've established friendships and working relationships with over the years at events. And, you know, the principal of the beach school made a comment to one of the PTO members recently, and I shared it with Jen yesterday. And when they did the walk up and, you know, led by the trucks and the sheriff, she looks at this person and goes, "Are we in a Hallmark movie? This doesn't really happen in towns anywhere." And she goes, "Oh, it happens here."
It happens here.
You know, all that's missing is a romantic lead and some weird story. But that's why we love the beach. That's why we love the beach community. And when I say beach, islands, all the way up to Pine Ridge, you know, that's our responsibility. We take it very personally. We are not going to lay down and just let us be taken away as board members or as taxpayers. So it's something we will protect, I guarantee. But I thank everybody for the comments tonight. We appreciate them. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out and speaking. We don't see enough of it. We truly appreciate it. It's usually on the hot topics, so it's thankfully we don't have many hot topics. But with that being said, everybody have a safe holiday run. Happy travels if you're going somewhere fun with family, or enjoy the family if you're here. Thank you very much. With that, we're adjourned.